4 straight months of rising home sales in the GTA, and June was the biggest month yet this year. The market is telling us something very clear right now, and in this video, I'm going to break down exactly what the numbers say, what it means for home prices, and what you should be paying attention to, whether you're buying, selling, or investing. Let's get into it. The June market data is genuinely really interesting, and I'm so excited to share it with you. So let's go through it together. I am going to show you some charts and data and numbers on the screen. So let's start with the sales, because this is where the whole story begins. So in June, more than 6,770 homes sold across the GTA. That's up 9.4% from June of last year. Now, here's why that number really matters, because it looks much more important than it does on surface. Now, this is the fourth consecutive month where GTA home sales are higher than the same time last year. And the gains are getting bigger each month, not smaller. So look at this chart here on the screen that shows the progression each month. March sales were up just 0.8%, then April jumped to 6.6%, May was at 6.1%, and June sales accelerated to 9.4%. That is not a market, or that is a market that is actually gaining momentum, not losing it. And here is the number that really stopped me when I was reading this. The first half of 2026 has now surpassed the first half of 2025 in terms of home sales, total home sales. Now remember, January of this year, home sales was down over 20% from a year ago. So that entire deficit was completely erased in just 4 months. Now, I know what some of you are thinking, hey, this is just the spring market doing what the spring market always does, right? And that's a fair question. But here's what I'm observing. In a typical spring market, sales peak in the spring and then it fades as we get into the summer. That's the normal seasonal pattern. So April, May should be much stronger. By the time June and July hits, it should slow down. June sales actually rose from May. On a seasonally adjusted basis, last year, June was actually flat compared to the month of May. This year, it accelerated. And this is not just a seasonal bump. This is a genuine shift in momentum. And I'm going to show you that. For example, our team, we had an open house this past weekend at 2 different locations in Brampton, 2 different properties, and I kid you not, there were more than 12 groups of buyers coming into each open house. And that's a lot more than what we were seeing back in March, April. And it's the first week of July, right after Canada Day and during the World Cup games. I thought it was going to be pretty quiet. So I was very surprised. And I will tell you, I can really sense the market momentum when I'm having conversations with everybody that's visiting us at the open house. And I've been around long enough to feel that there is a definite shift in the market. I would say it's the pent-up demand that's starting to open up again. Now let's talk about supply, because that is the other half of the equation. So new listings in June were down almost 13% from June of last year. Total active listings are down 13.5%. And just over 27,000 listings across the GTA. So the months of inventory tells us how long it would take to sell everything currently listed. And that has dropped from 5.8 months in January all the way down to around 4 months now in June. That is a meaningful tightening in just 6 months. And it is very important to understand, because this is not just a story of a flood of inventory finally finding buyers. This is stronger demand running into a shrinking pool of available homes. Those two things happening at the same time is what changes market conditions. And this is what I want to show you today. So let's talk about prices, because this is where the most interesting story of the numbers. And many of you are wondering, so what's happening with home prices? So let me show it to you. The average home in the GTA sold for $1,058,000 in June. And yes, that is still 3.9% below last year in June. And this is where most of the news headline would stop right there. But watch what that number has been doing month by month. Okay, so in February, home price is down 7% from last year. March was down 6.9%. April down 5%, and then June 3.9%. Do you see what's happening here? The gap is closing every single month. And on a month-over-month basis, prices actually edged up from May to June. Now, here's the math that most people completely miss. Prices were falling through the second half of last year. The average GTA home went from 1.1 million in June of last year down to just over a million by December, by the end of the year. So that means the comparison bar, the number that we're measuring against this year, gets lower every single month from here. So what that means is if the average prices now simply just hold where they are today, no increase at all, the year-over-year number is going to turn positive by the month of October. Even TRREB's chief market analyst, Jason Mercer, he said it directly. If the market continues to tighten in the second half of 2026, prices could move in line with 2025 and eventually post increases. Volume moves first, prices follow. And that is the sequence of what's happening right now in real time. So now let us break this down by home type, because the averages are hiding a really important story underneath. So stay with me and let's take a look at the numbers. What is sold in June and at what price? So look at the detached homes, okay? Detached homes, over 3,000 sold, and look at the average price, down just 2% from last year. Now look at semi-detached, 617 sold, home sales are up 3%. Average price just over a million, 38,000, and that's down 4.6%. Townhouses, just over 1,000 homes sold, and sales are up 4.3%. The average price for townhomes is $844,000. That's down 3% from last year. Condo apartments, over 1,700 condos were sold. That was a big jump in sales, 14% more than a year ago, and a big price drop, 9.5% price drop from a year ago. Now, where prices drop the most, buyers are coming back the fastest. Condos have the deepest price discounts right now, and they posted the strongest sales growth, up 14% in the city of Toronto and in the 905 area. And this condo move was not seasonal either. Condo sales actually jumped 11% just from May to June this year. Last year, May to June, it was barely like 1.9%. That's a very big difference from last year in home sales for condos, and nobody's talking about this. So June was the busiest month for GTA condo sales in at least 18 months that we've been tracking. The city of Toronto alone had over 1,124 condo sales, more than any month over that stretch of 18 months. Very important to take note of that. Now, here's something I want you to really pay attention to. In the city of Toronto, detached home prices actually edged up 0.3% from last June. And Toronto townhouse prices rose 1.5%. These are very small increases, but these are the first segments to cross back over the line into positive increase in price from last year. So the most discounted product is the busiest right now, which is condos, right? The most supply-constrained product has already turned positive on price first, which is detached and townhouses in Toronto. And that is what the inside of a market turn looks like when you do a deep dive into the numbers. So let's talk about where the market is moving the fastest right now. Durham region is the tightest part of the GTA. It's only about 3.4 months of inventory. Homes in Durham, they're selling in 24 days on average at 99% of asking price. Toronto East, that's even hotter. They're averaging 102% of asking price. That means that homes are selling above list price, and it's average 23 days there. And in the 905 region, here in Mississauga and the Peel region, detached home sales are up 12.3%, leading the home sales volume recovery across the GTA region. Now, I want to spend a moment here on condos specifically because I think this is one of the most important opportunities that we're seeing in the market right now. Yes, condo prices are down 9.5% from last June, And they're down, of course, significantly more from the 2022 peak market. But here's what the headline doesn't tell you. When you look from January of this year, just 6 months ago, the average GTA home price, or condo price is already up almost 4%. We've kind of hit the floor in condo pricing very quietly during this winter. While the headlines were still describing a falling market, condo prices actually been increasing quietly in the past 6 months. So earlier this year, there was a lot of institutional money, okay, that was quietly buying blocks of discounted condo inventory. And that's how sophisticated money moves, very quietly before the headlines catch up. And that same pricing is now available to individual buyers, one unit at a time. And now that we're talking about condos, we should also talk about new construction, because there is a bigger picture here that matters for the long term. New home construction across the GTA is near its lowest levels we have seen in decades. The big concern here is future new build completions are going to drop significantly through the rest of this decade, according to CMHC. Development charges alone, they account for about 20% of a new home's price. And while governments are talking about reducing these charges, that math does not change very quickly. What does not get built today cannot be delivered later. So the issue is market demand can shift very quickly just with news headline, but supply cannot shift quickly. It takes years to build new home supply. And this is the backdrop behind everything that we're seeing in the data right now. This means that we are going to have a supply constraint issue in the future years. So what should you be watching for over the next few months? Number one, the July market data, that's going to come out in early August, so stay tuned. I'll drop another video. If we see a fifth straight month of the same pattern, this is going to show us that this trend is really, truly happening. Number two, Bank of Canada decision will be on July 15th. The bank held at 2.25% for straight 5 meetings. So the direction still looks maybe it's going to be lower eventually, but you know, anyone can tell you exactly what's happening. Is just guessing, right? We don't have a crystal ball. Number three, the June jobs report that comes out July 10th, and the labor market is a big factor in this picture. So it's going to really matter, and that number is going to come out this month. Or no, this week, in fact. Number four, watch the condo segment. This is the strongest sales growth, deepest price discounts. And number five, watch out in October, because that's the month the year-over-year price number is likely going to turn positive if average prices simply just hold where they are today, meaning that we will start to see price increases again, if not even sooner. So here's the bottom line. 4 straight months of rising home sales, supply is shrinking, the price gap is closing every month. The first segments are already turning positive in price change. And a combination of numbers on this chart right now shows that prices are roughly 20% below the 2022 market. Interest rates are at 2.25%, and over 27,000 active listings we have in the market. So that's getting narrower on all 3 fronts simultaneously at the same time. So the question isn't whether conditions will improve, is actually whether you'll be positioned when they do. So if you're thinking about buying, selling, or investing in Mississauga or anywhere in the GTA, I'd love to have a real conversation with you. No pressure, of course, just clarity. My number is in the description below. You can call me or text me. You can reach out anytime. Please feel free. I'm also on WhatsApp, or you can just drop me an email as well. If you found this video helpful in any way, please give it a like and subscribe, and or share it with anyone that you know who would benefit from this information and from seeing this market data. I put out market data, Mississauga neighborhood content every week, so you always know what's really happening out here in the market. I'm going to see you on the next one. Thank you so much for watching with me today.